I'm Kayla.
And I'm Haley.
And we majored in English for this.
For this?
Alright, this week we read, for the start of season 2 of the podcast, An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. And why don't you tell us some more about it, Haley? But before, I'm going to open my soda now, so.
Yay!
Ooh, so crisp.
Missed that. Not that I don't drink my own canned beverages often, but, you know.
Yeah. Well, lead us in, Haley. When was this book published?
This book was published September 25th, 2018. So this is both of our first times reading it, obviously. And no nostalgia factor because it pretty much just resembles like my current life. Not like resembles it, but like everything is the same. And I was an adult when it came out, and I'm still an adult, surprisingly. So
yeah, I feel like this was a very anticipated book. Like, not even the subject matter, but I feel like everyone was on their toes about when Hank Green would release his first novel.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the Green brothers, because we're reading a John Green book next week. So
It's hashtag reading vlog brothers, baby.
Yep. So we're going to talk a little, before we get into the meat of the book, about the Vlog brothers, the Green brothers. So if you've been living under a rock for like the last 15 years.
Yeah, I was going to say like decade.
Yeah. And you don't know who John Green is, I don't know how I feel about that. If you use YouTube and you don't know who the Vlog brothers are, get off of YouTube. Okay?
You're not allowed here.
If you talk about VidCon and you don't know who the Vlog brothers are, delete your whole internet.
Just delete Chrome, Safari off your computer.
So, Hank and John Green are brothers. I can't remember who's older. I think John's older.
I think he looks older, not in like a mean way.
They are some of the original YouTubers. Like when I think of like OG YouTube, Vlog brothers, Philip DeFranco, Ryan Higa, Jenna Marbles. Jenna Marbles actually a little later.
Trisha Paytas.
Trisha, Justine, Shay Carl, Smosh. What is his name? What are their names? Rhett and Link. That's who it is. But like, that's who you think of when you think OG YouTubers. Tazon Day, for name another.
Oh yeah.
The Fine Brothers when they didn't make only react videos.
I don't think I knew them before.
They made like comedy videos. It was like a different breed. But that's who the Vlog brothers were, and it was very interesting because one of them was John Green, who at this point in time was already a Pulitzer-winning author. Oh goodness! For looking for Alaska, Alaska, and An Abundance of Catherine came out during the first year of the Vlog brothers, which started off as an experiment that Hank and John did. I watched the entire first year of the Vlog brothers. It was called Brotherhood 2.0, and Hank and John only spoke to each other through daily vlogs. They did not email, they did not call, they did not text. Only vlogs.
That's funny.
So I watched it. They're very interesting videos to watch. But yeah, so they created something. And John was already a well-known author at this point, so like there was that level of, oh, this is like an actual famous person.
Right. Like on the internet. Like I just feel like you didn't really get that. Like people, like famous people and internet people were very much separate at that point.
Mm-hmm. And then so I was very much involved up until probably like The Fault in Our Stars came out. I was very much involved with like, because Fault in the Stars came out right before college, and I really got off of YouTube in 2014 and didn't really get back onto it till like 2016, 2017. and too much had happened with them. But yeah, so I when this book came out, it was just like, oh, fuck it, finally, Hank, fucking finally.
And it did not disappoint, did it?
No, it's not YA. It's definitely new adult.
Yeah, it's definitely like when I don't come for me, but I did buy it at Barnes and Noble just because I wanted to own it, and I couldn't find it at my secondhand bookstore, and it was in the adult section. I like couldn't find it. I was like looking in YA, and I had to ask somebody, and she was like, "Oh yeah, it's over here in adult science fiction." I was like, "Okay, cool."
I think
it definitely is that.
It's definitely in that new adult category, which is like, because okay, we'll get into it in a second, but like the main character's our age. Like
Right.
she's not a teenager, and some of the subject matter is very much like not like kid, like it's appropriate for like a 15-year-old to read, but like it's not appropriate for like a 12-year-old.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think
It's not too like racy or anything though.
no.
I also just don't feel like anyone younger than, I say 13, but now I'm thinking like just because of they wouldn't comprehend like the meaning, like how important this book is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because there's definitely a lot of like surface level philosophy stuff that April says throughout the book that I feel like you need to be in your 20s to like really get.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so lead us in it, Haley.
Okay, yeah. So what happened here? We're just gonna jump right in. I did read through the whole thing speaking it, and it took about 45 minutes. So I just want to prepare you guys. Sit down, snuggle in. We're going into this. So first we meet April. She is a 23-year-old graphic design graduate working for a shitty startup tech company. Her parents own a company that makes equipment for dairy farms, and quote, it was good business, good enough that I wouldn't have had a lot of debt if I'd gone to a state school, but I did not do that. I had loans, lots. So after jumping from major to major, advertising, fine art, photography, illustration, and finally setting on the mundane but at least useful BFA in design, I took the first job that would keep me in New York and out of my old bedroom in my parents' house in Northern California. And that was a job at a doomed startup funded by the endless well of rich people who can only dream the most boring dream a rich person can dream, being even more rich. So, April lives with a girl she went to school with named Maya, and they live in the same apartment, and they are dating but aren't necessarily at the moving in together stage. Which is confusing, but honestly so relatable. It's January around 3 a.m. and April's Metro card isn't working, so she has to turn around and go back to her office. And this is when she meets Carl for the first time, who she believes is a, quote, really, really exceptional sculpture. I mean, it's awesome, but it's also a little bit New York awesome, you know? It's beautiful and powerful, and someone devoted a huge piece of their life to it. The local news does a story about it, and everyone is like, neat! And then tomorrow we forget about it in favor of some other absolutely perfect and remarkable thing. So she calls Andy. Andy is someone that April and Maya had done a project with in college, and all three became pretty much inseparable after that. Andy is on his way, and with his camera, and that's when we get this little description of Manhattan, which I just really appreciate. It is also the city of, behold the field in which I grow my fucks. Lay thine eyes upon it and see that it is barren.
I love that he included this meme. Just loved it. Because this is a
So
meme
good.
in its own right before this. It's definitely one of those Easter egg things, or if you didn't know this meme, you think that Hank Green, had created it. No, this just comes from the internet.
You can just, like, I feel like there's so many things. I'll talk about it more in Night of the Living Author, but, like, you can tell he's a person of the internet, but, like, a little bit older than us, just, like, in some of the things. But he does a really good job, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's also while she waits on Andy that she first realizes how strange the sculpture is. It wasn't necessarily cool or hot, and it looked a bit like a transformer, though April is hesitant to say so because no one wants to be compared to something that's mainstream popular. That's the worst of all fates. So Andy gets there and they film a video for YouTube with the sculpture in an interview style. April says, "And there you have it, citizens of the world. A giant, stately, terrifying, slightly warm robot man has arrived in New York City and, through his inaction, has somehow become only interesting enough for a 1-minute long video." So the next day, April wakes up at like 2 p.m. Maya's bringing her coffee, and it is here that April first tells us that she is shitty in relationships, and Maya is not technically that bad. She tells April that this robot thing has gotten weird and to read her email. And she has a lot of emails. There are 3 from Andy, and they explain what has happened with Carl since she's been asleep. Over 60 identical structures have popped up in major cities around the world. Though there is a lot of footage, April and Andy's video really took off, causing everyone to call them Carl, which is what they called it in the video. Also, news networks are using their video without permission, which turns into a cash cow for them, on top of the AdSense on the video. Andy also suggests that they make more videos about Carl and continue to split profits 50-50. This is also when she gets a message from Miranda, a graduate student in materials science at Berkeley. She's concerned about April's statement that Carl is warm. Being that Carl is heavy, he is likely metal, and it seems impossible that something metal in New York in January would be very cold. April writes back that he didn't necessarily feel warm, but that he had a lack of temperature. She finally calls Andy after talking to her parents, and he has found out more. There is no security footage of Carl getting to all the places that he is. All the footage cuts to static 5 minutes while Don't Stop Me Now by Queen plays. Also, the video has made a bunch of money and news stations want to interview them. While April waits for her TV interviews, she discovers the Freddie Mercury sequence. Basically, when they try to fix a typo on the Wikipedia page for Don't Stop Me Now by Queen, not only does it not stay fixed, but another appears, and in turn, these typos spell out, "I am you."
That's not creepy or scary or...
That's not weird. That's pretty normal.
I just want to be like, maybe it means something. I'm just like, this would be the point, April, where I'd be like, you know what? I think I'm not gonna be part of this. Bye-bye.
That would just, freak me out so hard. I would not know what to do. So her first interviews don't go all that well, but she learns to be pretty likable pretty quickly. Her and Andy schedule many more interviews. An interaction that someone had with another person pretending to be April finally prompts her to get a Twitter, and by the end of the day, she already has 500 followers. By this point, April has just stopped showing up to her job and is trying to solve the Freddie Mercury sequence.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My upstairs neighbor is fucking yelling right now. I'm so sorry, everyone. I need to move different rooms. Oh. I dropped my phone. Hold on. Sorry, I dropped the phone. I need to move rooms, because, if I can hear him, that means the audio can hear him.
Oh, we're at 13 minutes.
Yes, sorry about that. Go ahead and start that bullet point over again, Haley.
Okay, I'm just gonna start... April quits her job and returns to trying to solve the Freddie Mercury sequence. Maya doesn't want April to ask her Twitter followers about it in case it turns out to be something big. Maya says, "Would you rather be the first person to reveal that there is a mystery, or the person who solves the mystery?" Maya continued to appeal to my newfound sense of self-importance to get me to do what she wanted. Which, I don't talk about this later, but, that's kind of a weird approach. And, I would almost call Maya complicit or encouraging of all of the things that happened subsequently, but I don't know. That's just me. Anyway, the next day, April and Andy are flying to California because Andy's dad is a lawyer and he thinks they should get an agent. Also, they have a capital I important interview.
Yeah. At this point, I really thought something bad was going to happen because of Andy's dad. I don't know. I just got bad vibes from Andy's dad.
Yeah, he just didn't, I feel like he just wasn't, a well-rounded character.
He didn't really add anything to the plot.
Yeah, he just, like, I don't know. He just, yeah, didn't really add anything. I agree.
Yeah.
April's seat got double booked, so she's moved up to first class. Her TV is broken, and she jokingly tweets about it with a picture of the screen.
And it has all this weird code on it.
Yeah, it has, like, weird numbers and stuff like that. On the way to the interview, April realizes that there are some differences in how her and Andy are handling their newfound fame. Quote, Andy was into the spectacle of it. He believed in entertainment culture in a way that I never have. There's an appreciation that stretches beyond enjoying content and into worshiping all the bits that come together to make the content. I still saw it as mostly a necessary chore. I wasn't excited by any of it, but I was interested in what it could do for me. Our different outlooks started to cause some friction. And then April goes into this whole thing about how she's never watched TV, which mostly just rubbed me the wrong way. Like, who doesn't freak out over being on TV?
Yeah,
But anyway, like,
I really fucking hated how she called the late night host Pat. Hated it.
yeah, just call him Jimmy.
That's half
I'm
their
imagining
names
it's Jimmy
anyways.
Fallon, but yeah, so like maybe that was the joke, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
She does say one thing that makes some type of sense. I feel like I'm being asked to be something I'm not. Why of all people are they asking me about this stuff? I'm barely anything. But I also like it sometimes. I like it that people think my opinion matters. It's just, I don't know if it does. Which is so, like, the opposite. I feel like everyone on the internet, like, everyone thinks their opinion matters, and they get mad when people think it doesn't. So
like, that's what this whole podcast is. My whole, professional writing career. Like, I was a columnist for an entire year, and I always joked about how I was just spending 2 hours a week writing articles about things I didn't need to have my opinions on.
Exactly. That is kind of what is happening here also. So that interview is kind of what changes everything for April. She goes off script, but in a good way, a way that shows her personality. She is getting addicted to the power of popularity, and she doesn't really care. She wants to be involved with the Carl stuff, and she wants people to like her. That night, they record and post their second video to their channel that has 100,000 subscribers at that point.
Ooh, silver play button be like.
Before April goes to sleep, she checks her email and she has a response from Miranda. It says that Carl basically should not exist, and she is totally saying, but doesn't want to say, that Carl is most definitely an alien. Well, multiple aliens. Also, April likely made first contact. Capital F, capital C. April Skypes with Miranda and Miranda solves the Freddie Mercury sequence and figures out that Carl is asking for iodine, americium, and uranium. April realizes she needs to make a choice, and it's a choice that will change her life forever. Basically, keep going or give up. And obviously, she chooses the former. She takes this information to Andy, and they decide to move forward inside the reality that Carl is an alien. I have a quote. Sorry, it was too long to type. You know that maybe Carl isn't an alien, right? Yes, but we're going to act as if he is. Make decisions as if he is. We're not going to talk about it or say it, and if it turns out he's not, we'll have invested in the wrong reality. But if he is, we'll be 3 steps ahead of everybody else. Is that a good thing to be? Shouldn't, like, the president be 3 steps ahead of... 3 steps ahead and not a bunch of whatever we are's? I don't know, I said honestly. Let's just walk through the process and find out. And so we did what we'd been taught to do in school. We built a brand. Branding is something designers think about a lot. You take something like perfume or a car tire or flavored bubblegum, and you ask questions about it that you shouldn't be able to ask. What kind of tuxedo would this car tire wear to the prom? What is this perfume's favorite movie? You try to end up in a place where you understand a product as if it is a person. The reverse of this, where people become brands, should be easy, right? They're already people, and at the beginning. Except that really what you're doing when you brand is a process of simplification. You come to understand the essence of that fucking tire. And so branding a person also benefits dramatically from simplicity. People are complicated, but brands are simple. Marketing is a lot more about thinking than doing. We had to figure out what Carl's brand was, what my brand was, and how those identities would be a part of each other. We had to think realistically about the role I would play. And then basically she says she is going to be human where Carl is alien, and she's going to be calm where Carl probably makes everybody want to freak out.
Yeah.
That was an important role that I could fit into. That would be helpful, and that would give us power. So she's already talking about that power, baby.
Yeah.
She's already gunning for the power. So they devise a plan and lay out 3 different scripts. 2 that round out the, quote, idea of April May, and a 3rd for showing how they solve the Freddie Mercury sequence and testing their theory.
Yeah, so, like, at this point, April May, I feel like if she, like, was a classic YouTuber, if she was doing this stuff, people would be like, you're a plant. You're a plant.
Yeah.
Like, early...
Yeah, like, no one comes upon this honestly, you know?
Yeah, like, all of the... Like, remember forever ago, that one beauty vlogger who turned out to be, like, a plant?
Oh, yeah, like, YouTube... Like, made her say that stuff, right? Was it YouTube or a different
No,
company?
like, she was, like, an actress, and it was a production company that was a set that she pretended was her bedroom. It was this whole thing. And then, what is her name? Breezy?
I can't remember.
This was a different girl.
Oh.
Like, she was on, like, Shane Dawson's podcast. She would do, like, a bunch of, like, she was friends with Karina Grace, and she would, like, edit her videos, and she was, like, crazy. I think her name is Breezy. Brislin? Anyways. But, like, her whole thing was the room she would film in and pretend would be her bedroom was just a room in her house that was her set. And, like, people got big mad about that. So, like, this, I was just like, hey, are you doing this? Like, what's... like, what's going on? Do professional YouTubers, like, write scripts? And not just off-the-cuff monologue?
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I wrote a script for the vlog that I recorded this week.
Oh, I don't like that.
Like the intro.
I don't like that.
Well, I would forget what I was supposed to say. I had a vision, and I needed to execute it. I think, like, there's a difference between, like, videos that people sit down and make and stuff just, like, everyday vlogs. I feel like that most of everyday vlog stuff isn't, like, planned, but I don't know.
Okay. Anyways, moving on.
Anyway, April panics that one day the most interesting and important thing about her would be a thing she did a long time ago. Basically, not only has she gotten used to people knowing her, she wanted it to continue forever. The next day, her and Andy meet Jennifer Putnam, a big shot LA agent. And April pretty much tells her everything, and that she already has a plan. Quote, we would like to build the brand of April May to help people deal with the reality of Carl. And, once I have that platform, use it to bring people together and promote simple change and a better world. And so basically they're in it now. While on coffee break, Andy tells April more Carl weirdness. Oakland officials tried to move their Carl and he broke their crane. And April's thinking, I stared into my coffee as the magnitude of it all crashed down on me once again. This just kept happening. I'd be living my normal life, being me inside of me the way I'd always been, and then I'd remember. It was a little like how I felt a couple years before, when our cat Spotlight died. You keep forgetting that life is never going to be the same again, but you can only go so long without thinking, where's Spotlight? I haven't seen him all... Oh, fuck. Which I just think is so good. Mm-hmm. Jennifer Putnam gives April her assistant, Robin. Mm-hmm. April, Andy, and Robin meet up with Miranda to test their theory about the elements on Hollywood Carl and shoot a video. At Hollywood Carl, there's a line, and some people recognize April, and they want a picture. And April's like, oh, I don't know what to do with this fame. I don't know how to handle people knowing me, but she really loves it. When April touches the iodine to Carl's hand, she feels a weird pulse go through her body.
She
When
also gets like super nauseous
yeah, and she
and like almost passes
faints.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when she touches the americium, Carl's hand pops off and runs away. Which this is like the first point where I was like, oh, this book is kind of goofy. Like,
Yeah.
before I was like taking it really seriously, and then his hand pops off and runs away, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of silly. They chase it down a few streets and into a weird magician's club, and they're effectively stopped from pursuing. In the car on the way home, they shoot an outro for the video. It occurs to me now, this had only taken so long to occur to me because I had actively prevented myself from thinking about it, that we took a number of actions today on behalf of all humanity, and maybe we should have asked for some kind of permission first, or let the government decide if this was the correct course of action. I did not do that. I did not think that the result of our experiment would be so substantial or significant. I have no reason to think, however, that the Carls are anything but friendly at this point. Well, maybe they are also very, very odd.
I did not understand the weird magician's club thing. Did not understand it at all. Why?
I feel like it was just a little bit of a goof.
I felt like it was gonna be more important to the story. It wasn't.
It wasn't. It never came back up again, really. April falls asleep on the drive back to the hotel, and it's the first time she has the dream. And we're obviously going to talk about it a lot, so I'm not going to describe it here. Basically, it always starts in a big, shiny office building. On the way back to New York, Robin says this about books that I thought meta enough to transcribe here. Books are the most intensive of all current media. People are willing to spend hours and hours with a book. Additionally, people are still willing to pay for them. And I wanted to include that because while I was doing notes, it was like hour 3 already. So I was like, fuck. So it's after book April has the dream a second time that future April starts to clue us in that she has given the dream to those around her. You can go ahead and add that to the list of my accomplishments. April May, former pet detective, dairy supply heiress, initiator of first contact with space aliens, video blogger, and patient zero for the first and only infectious dream, and also terrible girlfriend. So it turns out at the same time that Carl's hand detached and ran away in Hollywood, all other hands of all other Carls just vanished into thin air. When she gets back to her apartment, she finally clues Maya in on everything that happened after she left, and Maya is kind of pissed, with good reason. She's mad because she knows that April thinks she can pull the whole thing off on her own, which is a bad idea. Did you think at all that it would be a good idea to talk to me about this? And here's the moment when a sane person could have healed the situation. It would be very easy to separate all of this. It would have probably been a good idea to put some space between the "we are not alone in the universe" talk and the "I want to grab power and do good with it" talk and the "I am terrified of a relationship" talk. But I wanted to turn the fight into a breakup. The idea of us couldn't compete with the idea of April May. So I burned it all down.
This was a moment I was like, okay, I understand those feelings, April, but read the room. When you're on the cusp of getting into an argument and you have to make the active choice about whether or not you're gonna get in that argument or not.
Yeah. And she just decides to have it.
Yeah, and I'm just like, April.
I just hated it because it was so fucking cringy because she just kept making it worse.
I know. I really liked the part where it was just when she called Maya and Maya didn't answer. And in retrospect, she was just
in the love section. The love section's kind of weird this week.
Yeah. And how that was the catalyst to this. Because Maya didn't answer her phone when April needed her to in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and Maya, and that was before she even met with Jennifer Putnam. What Maya said that night could have changed everything, but she didn't answer.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy. So they break up, and April moves into her own apartment on the same street as New York Carl. In the following weeks, April and Andy gain a lot of fame, especially and obviously on social media. The comments on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter instantly switched from a small, friendly, supportive community to a selection of the loudest, most over-the-top opinions one could imagine. April is big sad to be living alone, which, relatable. And that first night she solves the first puzzle in the dream and she wakes up singing a code. April, Robin, Andy, and Miranda all finally realize that they've been having the same dream and that the code is a hexadecimal, something used in computer coding to the best of my knowledge. Didn't really understand that.
Yeah,
how
okay,
my brain
so
works.
okay, I can explain this from a graphic design point of view for us. Because you know how every color has a hex code?
Oh, yeah.
That's what this is.
Oh, okay. So, like, when they get all of them, they're supposed to come together and make a...
Yeah, so that's why they're like, it's coming together to an image. Because I think it's supposed to be like, each piece of computer coding is... It also has like a color to it, so that's why I was making images for a while and then computer coding. Another thing is I got really annoyed when April was just like, I don't like telling people about my dreams, I think it's weird. And I'm just like, I'm gonna tell anyone and everyone about my dreams.
I do too. I always am like, I had a dream about you. You were in my dream. You want to know what my dream was?
Like, I texted our friend Emily this morning and it was like, I dreamt I bleached my hair and put green in it.
That sounds like a good idea, actually. Anyway, the four decide that April should go back into the dream and they would find out if other people are having it. And they most definitely are. All over the world, people are in the dream city solving the puzzles that they're calling sequences. It's also obviously apparent that April was the first to have it, and that Maya, using a pseudonym, is one of the people who has solved the most sequences. But only April knows that at that point. The president calls April before giving a speech to the entire country and pretty much scolds her for not telling them what was going on. And April thinks, I was now inextricably linked to this story. Not because I discovered Carl, and not because I was the first person with a following to come out and say he was an alien, and not because I seemed to be the reason his hand fell off and ran across Hollywood, but because I was all three of those things. April does many interviews after the president's speech, and it's during one of these interviews that she meets Peter Petrovicki. He's basically an alt-right neo-Nazi, right? That's kind of the vibe, or too far? Like, not that bad?
That's the vibe he gave me, like, which we could get into later, but, like, yeah, it felt very much like he was one of those, like, I understood some of the points that he argued for, but I did not enjoy his rhetoric.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll definitely get into that later. But later on, I call him a shittier, less meme-worthy Alex Jones, which isn't quite neo-Nazi, but just, like, with the scare tactics and, like, the sensationalizing.
Maybe a Rush Limbaugh?
Don't let my dad listen to this podcast. So, PP thinks that the Carls are an invading force that are a threat to national security, though keep in mind there are Carls all over the world. Obviously, April asserts that they are most likely powerful enough that if they wanted to do something, they probably would have already, but they haven't, likely making them a peaceful species. But basically, Peter sucks. He's a shittier, less meme-worthy Alex Jones, in my opinion. He uses scare tactics to get people to do what he wants, and often April will wonder why he wants to scare people and, like, why he wants people to feel that way, and I also wonder this about people like him. He was one, this is what April says, he was one of thousands of people who scraped by, filtering reality through their ideology and then yelling really loudly at the internet. But his quick thinking made him an instant voice. This might have stung all the more because I had a fairly similar trajectory. I inserted myself into this conversation when I didn't really belong there. I was pitching a particular ideology that fit for some people but didn't fit for others. It made perfect sense that a different perspective was going to feel more legitimate to people who were more afraid of otherness. A competing ideology was bound to pop up. So they basically become symbols for what our political climate is today. I think that's fairly apparent. April starts talking about what a fuckery is, and she doesn't realize the harm she's doing by giving him attention. By engaging with him, I was affirming him and his wackos. Their ideas were getting more exposure through my larger audience, and I was confirming the idea that there were two sides you could be on. It was a huge mistake, and also great for views. To combat Peter, April becomes more brazen with her own message that the Carls... Brazen? That the Carls are watchers sent to observe how humanity reacts to the knowledge that they are not alone, which fit well with the dream and the Carls, because they're... I didn't say it earlier, but basically the sequences you can't solve on your own. Like, you need help from other people around the world, and that's what the Carls want them to do, is work together.
At any point, do you describe what the dream is?
No, just because I just felt like if you read the book, you know, like, if you're listening to this, you probably read the book, probably know what it is, but
yeah,
if you want to...
I feel like it's kind of... I just thought it was very interesting how the dream was shaped.
Yeah, so the dream is, like, it's just kind of like a patchwork of different, like, structures, like, buildings and areas from around the world. Some are, like, actually real, some are made up.
Yeah. I think I really liked the idea that it was so mundanely normal that it was intriguing.
Yeah. And that, like, even this mundane stuff that, you know, people see all the time still needed help from other people to figure out what the solution was.
Yeah. I really like the idea of, well, we could talk about this later, but about how it's almost a bit of, like, social commentary about how humans want to help other humans at our baseline.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely come back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, April becomes a political pundit, constantly arguing her point of peace, which seems counterintuitive to me. But she also begins writing her first book about Carl, her experience with him thus far, and why people should work together in this situation. And while at a day spa, sick brag April, she realizes that people all over the world whom she had never met and would never meet hated her. And OMG, she doesn't tweet about it, but I'm just being an asshole on purpose because I tweet about literally everything. Peter creates an encrypted website where his defenders, aka his followers, can post sequences they've solved, and so other people can't get them. April, Robin, Andy, and Miranda are trying to decide how to fix this because Carl wants people to work together. And April reveals that Maya is the one who's solved a ton of sequences, so they get her in on the action. And again, Maya gets kind of pissy with April because she knows that April wants to do the whole thing herself. And not without good reason. Like, April was like, oh, we don't have to worry about it then. Good, you guys can just do it. Like, okay, bitch.
Yeah.
Maya asks if they can use their resources to create an integrated forum for the dreamers to talk and use each other's information to solve sequences. And that night, April has the first dream with the jet plane. The app they create is the Psalm. April is at her brother's wedding when the news hits that the dream is literally changing people's brains. And it's a bit of a bad look for them. Like, there are people that they've quarantined that haven't got it because they haven't physically been near other people with the dream. So then April's book drops.
My Life with Carl.
My Life with Carl.
I think that's what it's called. There's it called Carl and Me. I forget.
No, I think it's My Life with Carl.
Yeah.
April, Robin, Andy, and Miranda go on tour for her book, which is going well until a speech in Ann Arbor goes terribly wrong because a defender shows up and causes a scene. Calls her a traitorous bitch or something in front of everybody. And the tour is canceled.
I didn't understand. Why wasn't there security at this event?
I don't know, because I feel like any of, like, event space has their own security. Like, even if April didn't have security, like, there would be people there. Anywhere there's a big gathering, especially in today's age, there's always going to be security.
Yeah. Okay.
But I also just thought it was funny because, like, he was there and he had to buy her book to go. And so it's like, you're not getting your money back. Like, well, maybe they did. I don't know at that point. But anyway, April finally asks Maya about the plane in the dream, and Maya confirms that it is, in fact, very strange and gives April instructions to get more information and, most importantly, not to try to do the whole thing herself. But she do the whole thing. She tries to do it all alone. She gets one clue from the first time she finally gets to the plane, and it's a strange logo that she has never seen before. The crew sans Maya go to a movie premiere on the same day that the final sequence is solved. When I was saying that, I put quotes around sequence instead of final. So that was the wrong way to say that. Anyway, April hooks up with Miranda. It's weird. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it either.
However, with the last sequence having been solved but nothing working, it is apparent that April and the plane sequence are required. The password, per se. She's going on CNN to debate with PP. It all goes pretty awful, and he brings up April's sexuality and why she's been lying for the past year about being gay when she is bi. And oof, it is bad. April comes up with a lot of responses. 1, sexuality is complicated and fluid. Deeply off topic. Being bi is normal, but, you know, they don't know. 3, I lied because people like you are terrible. Accusatory. 4, it's only been 6 months, not a year. Not useful. 5, I lied because it was better for my career. Bad. Or 6, my agent told me to lie. It wasn't my idea. Only a little better. However, she just walks out of the studio. Finally, she realizes she may not have made all the best moves. It's so much easier for people to get excited about disliking something than agreeing to like it. The circle jerk of mockery and self-congratulation was so intense, I didn't even realize I was at its center. It was so easy to get people to follow me, and in the end, that's what I wanted. It took no time at all for me to be just as bad as Peter Petrowicki. Oof. Extremists in the Defenders movement have found each other, and on July 13th, coordinated attacks hit Sao Paulo, Lagos, Jakarta, and St. Petersburg. What?
I just farted really loudly.
Oh, no. Well, the good news, over 800 people die, so...
Oh, anyways.
And also someone tries to assassinate April. April is shot at, but Hollywood Carl's hand knocks her out of the way. April doesn't want to call the cops, and Carl's hand won't let her tell anyone about him. And then she, like, curls up and sleeps with him. It's kind of funny.
And then this is actually, so this happened, like, in the middle of the night at, like, 4 a.m.
Yeah. The same time as all the other attacks April is shot at.
Yeah.
The next day, April wakes to find Carl's hand gone, but before it left, it apparently emailed her friends and family that she was okay, and so they shouldn't worry. Andy comes over because she wants to go out into the masses to shoot a video and inspire confidence in humanity again. Her tweets before she leaves her apartment: "Sick with sadness. I have misplaced my hope. Let's be together today and remember our humanity, not our brutality." And also, "Just a few people did this. In a world of 8 billion, I am trying so hard to remember how few of us are truly evil." Which is, like, a really good response to this.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't know if I actually felt any of those things, but it seemed on brand. Like, what? That's twisted.
Yeah.
In the crowd, as they are filming, April is literally stabbed in the back. Andy smashes his DSLR into the attacker's face, but at this point, Carl had already turned everything but his skin to literal grape jelly, and Andy's camera just takes his head clean off.
Why grape jelly?
I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And later in the ambulance, April, like, licks her lips, and she's like, that's sweet. Wonder what that is. April says one final heroic thing from the stretcher to the camera, and Andy gives her the SD card so the police can't confiscate it. In the hospital, no one really contacts her except her parents, and until the whole-ass president arrives, and the president tells her he was acting alone in the sense that he did not have financial or logistical support, but he was part of the coordinated attack and was in contact with the other terrorists. If you're looking for a motive, which I applaud you if you aren't, but it would be hard not to, I don't think I can help you. He had criminal convictions for domestic violence and had been living alone for years. Initial reports are that his online rants weren't very coherent, but he was clearly an angry person who felt he had no control over what he saw as a decaying world.
Mm-hmm.
God.
Like, and I feel like that's good social commentary, because that's almost always who these crazies are.
Yeah, I feel like that is most definitely... later on when they're talking about the other thing, the bad thing that happens at the end, he also makes it very clear that, like, these people are isolated individuals and not... Which I think is really good. The president also tells April that they will have to try Carl in a court of law for the homicide. April finally tells her about the plane sequence and gives her a copy of the SD card to investigate, but 24 hours later, April can post whatever she wants. The president will come back for a photo op the next day. Robin and Andy finally get to the hospital, and April is actually emotional over Andy being brave and the only person that actually tried to save her. I feel like it was such, like, a bystander... What do they call it?
The bystander effect?
Yeah, where, like,
Survivor's
everyone
guilt?
thinks someone else is gonna do something, so no one
that's the
does
bystander
anything.
effect.
Yeah, I feel like it was a good example of that. The next morning, her parents and friends are there because the president is coming, and they're faced with a dilemma about how April should appear. Robin doesn't want people to hate her more, and thus try to kill her even more. He says, you need to be what you really are, a hurt human being in the hospital. So the stylist just freshens April up a bit, and Jennifer Putnam is pissed. She basically says she looks ugly, which I think is rude. Jennifer asks if April wanted to look weak, and April says, no, I wanted to look how I feel, to look like a human when everyone is going to want to make me a symbol. But April, you need to be a symbol. You need to look good. What do you want me to look like? A movie star in a hospital bed? Like the Messiah, or like Judas? Which one will sell more books, Jen?
Ooh.
Dude, she clapped back. So the actual meeting with the president is super simple. She basically just comes in and says hi, and that was all the president wanted. But April does try to make it something more than it is, but the president kind of is like, nope, we're good. After the attacks, everything kind of slows down for everyone. April doesn't have much more to do than heal her physical wounds and try to solve the plane sequence. She wants to make up with Maya, so she does what she knows Maya has been wanting her to do, and that's ask for help. So she makes a video. It doesn't take long for the world to solve it. Part of the clue is to sing Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen, quote, the master of pop music, according to Hank Green. She finds another clue relating to the Mayan numbers that Miranda had told her previously, which I skipped because I didn't want to talk about the hookup scene between her and Miranda. But she accidentally wakes herself up. Maya is happy that she posted the video. In the following weeks, April and her friends fall into the background slightly and continue attempting the plane sequence. One day, she is in the dream, and Robin wakes her up because the defenders have solved the final sequence on their own. But this isn't common knowledge, but Robin knows because Jennifer Putnam is also Peter Petrovicki's agent.
Ooh!
God, the bitch.
I was so mad.
I was so furious. But April gets mad at Robin and kicks him out and fires him, which I was
Like,
upset
okay,
about.
I understood why, because he had known for months and hadn't told her. Like, I would also understandably be pissed.
Right. But also, like, Jennifer Putnam probably didn't. She threatened to fire him if she said anything.
Yeah.
Well, not if he said anything. I don't know. It was a complicated situation, and I love my little Robin, so...
Yeah, he's great.
While she is walking off some steam, she calls Maya and poses the question why the Defenders could solve it when they are such a small percentage of the world, which is what April has at her disposal, basically, is the entire world. And Maya says they could either be fucking with them, or... it's something different about the way they think, about the way they see the Carls that help them uncover the password. And April realizes what's different is that they're obsessed with her and everything she does. Mm-hmm. So the plane sequence is a 767. The Mayan number in the logo is a 6. April sat in row 6 of a 767 when she got bumped up to first class on her way to LA right before Hollywood Carl gave her the dream. And her TV on the plane was messed up, and it showed, guess what, a hexadecimal. And they figured that out because April tweeted a photo of it, which is obviously the final clue. They rush to put it into the program and solve the code, and it spits out an address and tells her and only her to go to this address in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Maya and Miranda are trying to talk her out of it, but she just must go. Mm-hmm. She live streams going into the abandoned warehouse that the address led her to. Yeah.
Why was it a Facebook live stream? Why not IG Live?
Why not IG Live? I don't know.
Who watches a Facebook live stream?
I don't know. Apparently 100 million people.
Apparently 1 billion people.
Oh, yeah, it was like 800 million or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Fuck. She smells grape jelly and assumes that Carl killed whoever it was that wasn't her. In an office, like up on the second floor, she hears Golden Years by David Bowie. Miranda texts her to get out because the whole thing was faked, but April is already trapped. She continues live streaming and has a bit of a heart to massive audience with her massive audience, and finally admits that she's been doing bad things because she likes the attention from strangers. Also, the building's on fire. I forgot to write that down. Probably kind of important.
Yeah.
Robin and a policeman are there talking to her on the phone, trying to coach her through an escape. The stream figures out that the lines in Golden Years by Bowie have changed, and April realizes what the final clue is, which is later confirmed by Maya and Miranda, that everyone together needs to give every Carl the element gold. And she tells her stream this and then jumps to her escape and breaks her damn leg. And she's still in the burning building. She calls Andy because she doesn't want him to be mad at himself forever. And then a massive beam collapses on her head. And then she's in the dream. And she finally meets and talks to Carl. He tells her that she gets 3 questions. He tells her that they came to Earth to observe, to know how humans would react to them, and that this is the beginning of a process. He says they believe that humanity is beautiful. And April realizes that she really was chosen for this. And Carl says, "Your story has just started, April May." And then she blacks out. And then the last chapter is told from Andy's point of view. When April asked everyone to give Carl gold, they did, and all the Carls disappeared.
So the New York Carl Supermaned up into the air, and then all the other Carls just like blinked out of existence.
Out of existence, yeah.
Also, you missed the part where Hollywood Carl's hand comes running on up and joins up with New York Carl.
Oh, I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
And also, like, it was kind of cool, like, there were a bunch of Carls in, like, China, and they were all under surveillance, but the citizens, like, bum rushed it and got in and caused a riot and got some gold touched to those little guys. However, April's body is gone. The people who killed her, even though they don't know she's dead, they're arrested, and the main guy was bragging about it online until another defender called in a tip. Andy is big sad. He says, "I only stayed in New York. Only I stayed in New York. I had the dumbest feeling that I wanted April to be able to find me. I wanted her to know where I was." And a few months later, he gets a text from April. She's at his apartment. Book ends.
Book ends on knock knock.
Knock knock.
There is a sequel coming out this year.
I know, July 2020. I talked about it in my vlog if you want to watch that.
Yeah, it's going to be called A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor, and it's going to be published on July 7th, 2020.
It's very exciting. Kind of want to pre-order it.
Yeah. Theme park.
Oh, yeah. So I put theme park above because I just figured it would be easier to just go straight into talking about this because I've got a lot of stuff to say.
I'll go for it, babe.
I felt like since this wasn't like a big long series that we were reading, like the individual book was much more important, and also it just says so much about our current culture that I just like really had to hammer this home. So my theme was fame and power and how this power changes April. Page 23. The power that each of us has over complete strangers to make them feel terrible and frightened and weak is amazing. Page 50. Power only does all its business of empowering when it's perceived as a difference between the power of those nearby and, even more important, the power one previously had. Page 119. Most attributes a person has are, at least in some way, defined by them. Fame is not this way. Imagine if you look different to every person who saw you. You have no control over this, and what you look like has nothing to do with the life you have lived. You have no idea what each person sees when they look at you. That's what fame is like. Page 120. A person's fame is in everyone's head except their own. You could be checking into your flight at the airport and 999 people will see you as just another face in the crowd. The 1,000th might think you're more famous than Jesus. Page 155. Just because someone has power over you doesn't mean they're going to use it against you. People who believe that tend to either be, 1, people who have been victims of that sort of behavior, or 2, people who, if given the power, will use it to hurt you. And I think it's important to note that this is told from future April's point of view, like the whole book is. And she's writing this knowing everything that has happened. So while her original intentions were well placed, like any of us would, her methods of enacting these changes were greatly affected by that 1,000th person and their adoration for her. Page 213. What I do regret is how I engaged with the defenders. In the weeks and months before July 13th, I distilled a diverse group of individuals down to few of their beliefs. Those beliefs were based on fear, and so all of my arguments began and ended with the same thought. You are all cowards. Reasoned, caring conversations that consider the complexity of other perspectives didn't get views. Rants did. Outrage did. Simplicity did. So simple, outraged rants is what I gave people. And previously, April criticizes the way that Peter Petrowicki appeals to people's fear to get what he wants, where by calling the defenders cowards, she's appealing to, like, their pride on both sides of the argument. So it's like, you don't want to be a coward, do you? So come to our side and be brave and face this. Where to the people on her side are, like, she's also appealing to their pride, where, like, we think we're better than you because we're not afraid of this thing. And it's very manipulative and bad. Their constant attacks meant... page 215, if you're following along. Their constant attacks meant I never had to doubt my message. I must be right because the people who disagree with me are so awful. And then here's a quick overview of what happens when groups of passionate believers start to define themselves in opposition to others. And I have a quote. I'll only read bits of it. 1. A simple message seems obvious to a large population, and those people can't understand what the opposition could possibly be thinking. They never or almost never engage with someone who holds those different beliefs, and if they do, it's in the context of the discussion, not in the context of, like, also being a human being. 2, the vast majority of those people nod appreciatively and then change the channel and watch NCIS and eat the tacos they made. They go to bed at 10:30 and worry a bit about whether their son is adjusting well to college. 3, a very small percentage get really riled up. They're angry and they're mostly worried or even scared and want to cause some kind of action. They call their representatives and do a little organizing. They're usually motivated not just by agreement in the message, but by hatred of the people trying to fight the message. 4, a tiny percentage of that percentage go way the fuck overboard. They get so frightened and angry that they need to make something happen. How? Well, that's simple, right? You eliminate the people who are actively trying to destroy the world. If we're all really unlucky, and if there are enough of them, these people find each other and they confirm and exacerbate their own extremism. And what I think is really interesting is April knows she promoted this kind of thinking because of how warped fame has made her own perspective. And she knows that she did so to get more views and to influence people to pay attention to her with little regard to her own actual message. And she, like, admits that. Page 235. We are irrational human beings, easy to manipulate if you're willing to do whatever it takes. That's exactly how terrorists convince themselves that murder is worthwhile. 279. When the rhetoric is so inflammatory, so enraged, it's not surprising that some people would work together to take matters into their own misguided hands. In my own less intense way, I have indeed done that very thing. And she realizes that she's been, like, responsible for her own followers' responses, whether good or bad, because of how she's treated the situation, and in turn, she has lost her humanity, and I want to talk about later about whose fault it is here that she lost her humanity. Page 311, this is when she's talking to her live stream. You like me, and no single person's love can compete with even casual regard from 100 million. That's that impossible, inhuman wave of support. Not inhuman because you aren't humans, inhuman because no human is designed to process it, to understand it. Fame is a drug. I'm just gonna skip that part. She basically knows that she's been doing bad things because she wants people to like her. And here Andy summarizes everything fairly succinctly, which is, like, the base of my argument here. 336 to 337. A year ago, I watched the world fall in love with my best friend, but then that love tore her apart and put her back together different. April and I, alone in a hotel room, plotted to change her from a person into a story. It worked. It worked because it was a great story, and one that fit her. We didn't know that she would actually become it. The most insidious part of fame for April wasn't that other people dehumanized her. It was that she dehumanized herself. She came to see herself not as a person, but as a tool, and if that tool wasn't being used, sharpened, refined, or strengthened at every opportunity, then she was letting the world down. April was a person, but we all convinced her that she was both more and less than that. So that's really bleak. I feel like that is just perfectly epitomizes the entire internet culture. And, like, people treating other people like inhuman pieces of shit, no matter who they are, no matter, like, it's just insane to me. Just how people just treat everyone else, and it turns people into thinking this way, like, into also thinking that they are less than human, and it's really fucked up.
I have 2 points. The first one is, when you read the quote from page 311, I don't know why I said 311. It reminded me, I just recently watched a conversation with podcast with Philip DeFranco and James Charles. We were texting about that earlier this week, and if you don't know who either of those people are, good for you, but but last year, James Charles, he's this a beauty YouTuber, he had this, like, huge fucking scandal, controversy, whatever you want to talk about, where everyone had an opinion about it. Everyone has an opinion about James Charles if you use the internet. Either
Yeah.
you don't know who he is, you love him, or you hate him. Those are the only options.
Right.
And in that interview, he literally said that no human is designed to process being famous.
Right.
And I think and that brings me to a second point. This book being actually written by an online personality is so completely different for this experience than any other book that I've read where it follows someone becoming like internet famous.
For sure.
Because those people are not Hank Green.
Right.
They did not grow up on the internet in such fame. And I think a lot of these points were really poignant of this fame and power because the author's literally been in that position where he as a person became the product that people were consuming.
Right.
It wasn't like traditional authors, the product that you're consuming is the book.
Right.
It's not about
the
them.
thing that they made. It's not them as a person.
Yeah. So, like, if you read just this book and didn't know anything about Hank Green, this was the content you're consuming. But then because we know who Hank Green is, this hits a little different, you know?
Yeah.
It's
for
like
sure.
understanding that, oh, these are like actual things that probably every single influencer you follow deals with.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Sorry,
you
go ahead.
go. No, you go.
I was just thinking like, just like trying to wrap my mind around how many people there are on the internet that have fame in some kind of way. That's kind of why I put that, 999 people can see you and not think anything of you, but that 1,000th person thinks you're better than Jesus. Like, to this tiny percentage of the population of the world think you're the fucking coolest person that exists. And there are millions of those people who people think that about. I just, can't fathom that.
Like the difference between as well as and she talks about this. I'm surprised you didn't have that list, like the different levels of fame, because that was a very interesting list that she put together. Well, Hank put it together, but
I could probably find it pretty quick.
Yeah, but I thought that was very interesting because it really did show that, for example, I don't think there's you would be hard pressed to find someone our age who didn't know who, say, Jake Paul was.
Right.
But, I know for a fact my parents do not know who Jake Paul is.
Yeah, but, to us, he seems like such a big deal. Or, David Dobrik seems like such a big deal to us. But, other people don't even know who he is.
Oh my god, I know.
So
I have the real world equivalent of that. Literally, I was talking to my friend Megan, just stayed with me all weekend. And she was listening and I was like, oh, this thing about the Vlog Squad. And she was like, the what? And I was just like, the Vlog Squad? And she had no idea what I was talking about. I was like, David fucking Dobrik. And she was like, I don't know who that is. I said, Liza Koshy. She had no idea who Liza Koshy is. And I'm just like, what?
It's just so crazy. It's like when you hear that people haven't seen Harry Potter and they don't know who Hermione is. It's like, what do you mean?
It's just becomes that thing of where when you are a fan of someone, they are the level of famous as everyone else in your mind, you know?
Yeah.
Because, I know for traditional celebrities, I've, seen interviews of people, traditional celebrities that I'm a fan of. They're like, oh, yeah, I was in the green room at Comic-Con, and I saw this other famous person. I was like, I was freaked out. And I was just like, you were freaked out because you saw, I think it was, it's Jared Padalecki. I remember I think it was one of the Supernatural guys. And they were talking about, what's his name? He played Luke in Star Wars.
I don't know.
Oh, God, I'm going to get
Luke in Star Wars? Mark Hamill?
Yeah, Mark Hamill. He said, oh, I saw Mark Hamill in the dressing room before coming out here. And he was, so shook about that. And I was like, do you not realize that you are the Mark Hamill to all these other people?
Right.
And I think that was very interesting. Because, I feel like a lot of people would know who Mark Hamill is, recognize him. But then also a lot of people would not.
Right.
Like, I don't think I would recognize Mark Hamill. Like, in public.
I would probably. But, like,
oh my god, no. I have even a better, exact, direct correlation to this. When I saw Tom Daly and Dustin Lance Black in the Edinburgh airport in 2017, I was freaking out. Everyone I was with was like, who? And I was like, Tom Daly, a British Olympic bronze medalist, and Dustin Lance Black, an Academy Award winning director. And they're just like, who? And I'm just like, how the what rock are you living under, or what rock am I living under?
Yeah, no kidding.
That you don't know who Tom Daly or Dustin Lance Black. Like,
if I saw Tom Daly, I would shit myself.
Literally, the interaction was I was standing in my line because they were flying. We were flying United. They were flying British Airways, and our line was really long, and their line was not long because they were just flying back to London. And so I looked up, I was like, oh, those are two really handsome guys. Oh, wait, that's Tom Daly and Dustin Lance Black. And, like, I was in line, and I couldn't just be like, hello, I'm an American, I'm also here. Like, and then I found out that they'd been in Edinburgh for the entire week I had been in Edinburgh, literally practicing at the municipal pool that was on the street, the dorms I was staying in. I walked past that pool every day for a week, not knowing fucking Tom Daly was inside it.
That's insane. Oh, boy.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I really like, Ralph researched a little theme, Hales.
Thank you.
I've
actually put the time in that I've been wanting to put into every single book that we've done thus far, and just been too fucking lazy to do it. So
yeah,
3 cheers for manic episodes, you know.
Yeah, I don't have the love of research, but I really did like the message of kind of like hope that was in this book about how humans want to help each other. Like, that's naturally what we want to do. We want to... Monkey want to solve puzzle.
Yeah.
And, like, we want to help each other. And, like, the whole point of the puzzles is you have to interact with other people. Mm-hmm. And the fact that up until Psalm, everyone across the internet was on all these different websites doing just that.
Right. Yeah.
And then... Yeah. So, like,
Sorry, go ahead.
Like, and then, like, also you could even touch about the fact that the existence of forums in general is, like, the root of that. The fact that there's entire online communities dedicated to specific things.
Yeah, like, incredibly specific things.
Like, incredibly specific things. Like, what was I... Did you watch Don't Fuck with Cats?
I did.
That, for example.
Yeah.
That if you haven't seen the documentary series Don't Fuck with Cats, go watch it. It's kind of graphic, but like you can close your eyes.
Dude, it made me rethink so many things that I've done on the internet. Like, if someone wanted to find me,
they could
most likely find me, which is fucking frightening.
Well, that's what 4chan does all the time when they find people they don't like. They do that. That's how
they dox them.
You get doxed, you get swatted, like.
Yeah.
Don't like any of that.
I didn't really touch on it a whole lot, but like this idea of humanity and inhumanity, and just like treating people like they are less than human just because you don't see them in your real life. Like, and I just feel like with the internet, like, it's so different because people are famous on the internet because they're on the internet, and so you turn around and say bad things about them on the internet. Like, it's like a movie star. It's like someone making a whole movie to bash a movie star. You know what I mean? Like, but you can say shit about Angelina Jolie, not that anyone would, on the internet, and she's probably not going to see it because she's a fucking movie star. But, like, these people, this is what they do, and you're just going to sit here and treat them like you can't reach them because they have more followers than you? Like,
yeah.
I think it's been something also that I've had to teach myself is like realizing that these people I see on the internet are real people. Like they exist somewhere. There are things that they do outside of what I see them do, and I don't know, that this book just really
Yeah.
hit that home for me.
I also feel like even the mixed mention of the fact that everyone knows where April May lives. Everyone knows where April May lives, but she lives in a building that you can't access.
Right.
Which I think is very important because there is this conversation that, once again, Jake Paul created this interaction for a while there where people thought it was appropriate to go to YouTubers' houses.
Right.
Because you could go to the Team 10 house. But then they were just like, oh, we didn't mean for that to happen, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, are you? Really? Really? But, because, like, I don't know how much of a fan of Jenna Marbles you are, but, like, back then, like, what? This was in 2018, wasn't it?
Yeah.
2018, 2017. Someone came to Jenna Marbles and Julian Solomita's house, and they had an interaction where Julian was just like, you can't be here. And it was like a mom and her child, and her mom was like, yeah, well, it's crazy that you can come to YouTuber's house. And he's like, no, you can't. This is
You actually can't.
And then made a video. It was just like, don't come to our house. Do not.
Or like when was it Jake or Logan that doxed Post Malone? Like just
Jake.
went up to his house and
Jake.
showed it in a video. Because he got his address off a fucking FanJoy order.
Illegally.
That's so insane.
Like, because he's not allowed to access that information, but he somehow got it and went. And remember H3 made a video about it. It was like, y'all dox Post Malone.
Yeah.
And like this was kind of before Post Malone was like Post Malone.
Right.
But
anyway,
anyways.
We're gonna get into it again, probably.
Yeah. In Night of the Living Offie.
Yeah. So let's talk about love. I felt like I included these quotes here because, I mean, this is not a love between an immortal being and a fire-breathing bitch queen, you know? Like, it's different. Like, it's real. Like, these are people our age experiencing things that we're going to experience or have experienced. And so, these quotes aren't super lovey-dovey. They're just, you know, real-ass shit. So, page 66. It's weird looking back on little insignificant moments that completely change your life and maybe all of human history. There's one right there. Maya didn't answer her phone that night. Page 112. The result of this semi-long relationship with a beautiful and intelligent woman was that if I, even for a moment, thought about my life with or without Maya, I would notice how deeply and passionately in love with her I was. Which I think is so crazy because it can also go the exact opposite way. Like, you can be in this relationship with someone and then be like, wow, I look at it with a different view and this is not how I feel at all.
Yeah.
Page 116. But I wanted to turn the fight into a breakup. The idea of us couldn't compete with the idea of April May, so I burned it all down. That also is just so real, like, especially with an online person. Page 117, oh God, April, you really have no idea, do you? You have no idea what this is about. You're just trying to find an audience who will love you, and I'm not enough. Well, this isn't going to be enough either, and I guess you'll just have to go and find that out. Which I feel like you don't have to be, like, a famous person to feel like you are looking for attention online because you, like, either don't have that in real life or you, like, you know, your mind is warped into thinking that it's not enough. I can definitely relate to that. Yikes. Page 302. This is Maya talking to April, telling her not to go to the warehouse. Do not do this. I am telling you not to do this because I love you. Oh. But yeah, so the love section was a little bit of a downer this week because that's real life, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like it was a very real in relationships. Like, I feel like we could talk about here about the fact that April said multiple times she tried really hard to flirt with Robin. He was just like, no, this is a professional relationship. Stop.
Right.
And
Yeah,
then
there.
like,
He just didn't want it to go there, no matter
yeah,
what, because he's an actual person. This isn't a romance novel.
yeah. And then like the retrospect answer when she's just like, wait, Andy has feelings for Miranda, and I definitely fucked that up, literally and
Literally and
metaphorically.
metaphorically. Yeah, and just like her relationship with Andy, how like it's sometimes it's rocky, but they pull through. They're besties at the end.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you kind of covered it, dog.
Nice.
Let's get into Rep Station.
Okay.
You want
Do
me
you,
to read something?
yeah, you can read. You can read whatever you want.
I'll read page 19.
Okay.
Maya was the most effective talker I knew. It was like she wrote essays in her brain and then recited them verbatim. She once explained to me that she thought this was part of being black in America. Every black person who spends time with a lot of white people eventually ends up being asked to speak for every black person. And I hate that. It's really stupid. And everyone gets to respond to that idiocy however they want. But my anxiety eventually made me extremely careful about everything I said because, of course, I don't represent capital B black people. But if people think I do, then I still feel a responsibility to try to do it well.
How do you feel about this?
I understood this, and I feel like this might have been someone in Hank Green's life who told him this, and it changed his perspective.
That was exactly my thinking too. Like I
Like,
I was like, I know someone has said this to him and he like really took that to heart and wanted to let people know that people feel this way. And
yeah,
it's fucked
like
up.
this definitely feels like something I could imagine Cheska Lee saying.
I don't think I know who that is.
She's a YouTuber and she's friends with
Okay.
Hank Green. And like I've definitely some of the women of color that I follow on YouTube have said things to this extent. Like Jackie Ina. I don't know if do you watch Jackie Ina?
Mm-mm.
Okay, she's an amazing YouTuber. And this just past week, she uploaded a video to YouTube where it was a Get Ready With Me, but she was also talking about that video of that girl who wore her of a black woman wearing her natural hair to work and all the white people touching it. And how
Yeah.
that's not okay.
I
And about how
can't believe people still do that.
and how she's just like never ever is it okay to touch a black woman's hair or really anyone. But then like
Yeah.
she went into about how black women's hair is policed and like that's a microaggression, and like she went into this spiel about it, and while still doing some beautiful glam makeup. And like I feel like that's an important video. If you guys want to know more what I'm talking about, go watch that video on Jackie Ina's channel. Let me look up what the title of it is so you can go see it. But yeah, I feel like I feel like this is a thing that happens, and it's also called code switching,
Oh
which
yeah.
if you're unfamiliar with that, that's something that a lot of people of color talk about, is about how they have the way they talk with other people of color, and then they have the way they talk with white people.
Yeah. And it's just not only is it fucked up, but it's like how does that like how does that affect how they think about themselves and other people? Like I just think it's incredibly damaging and like it like takes some of their freedom away from being who they actually want to be because they people have put these expectations on them to be how they want them to be, and that's not who they are, and it's just kind of
The video by Jackie is why you shouldn't touch black women's hair.
okay.
But I also like there's also this idea where I feel like this could also be talked about, where I feel like, and maybe the conversation has died out a little in recent years because like other things have dominated the conversation, but for a long time there was where every single white person thought it was okay to ask every single black person they saw what they thought about Black Lives Matter. And it's just like, why are you asking your friend this?
Right.
Or a stranger or an acquaintance about this?
Right.
And like, like if you don't know that person, what the and then like you would, and then like a lot of people, like I saw this in definitely situations where I was like, I'm not getting involved with this because I don't have time to argue with a troll which we could even talk about Peter Petrowicki, how arguing with trolls feeds into them and makes them feel valid.
Mm-hmm.
Where sometimes be like, well, my black friend, and I'm just like, is that first of all, is that your friend? Two, did you just like bombard someone with a question about something that they weren't prepared to answer or have well researched, and you're just like, well, they didn't like this about this, and I'm just like, well, do they even know what they're talking about? Like, not like that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like
I
can't.
just like the every where like what it says here is like you think like a lot of white people think that one black person is like every other black person, so they must think like every other black person thinks. Like that's so fucked up.
Yeah, like
and, like one person can't be a voice for a whole group of people. Like
yeah. It's like in 2016 where a lot of white people thought Ben Carson spoke for every single African American person.
Yeah. Not quite.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's our white people opinion. If you're a person of color and you think that's wrong, please tell us, and we will correct that and apologize for it on Twitter.
This isn't my white person opinion. This is my straight person opinion now. But like how every like people think that like, oh, Pete Buttigieg becoming president is like our first gay president. Like that's so great. Why can't people see how great that is? Well, because like people still don't like him. Like just
He's
because
also
he's
low-key
gay doesn't
racist.
mean he like is the speaker for all gay people. Like
Yeah, there is, in fact, a good article. I think it's from either The Guardian or The Atlantic about how, yes, Pete Buttigieg,
Buttigieg.
whatever, about how he's gay but he's not queer, which I feel like you would like.
Probably. Sounds
Because
like something I would like.
because he is very much a rich white gay man from the Midwest, and how the struggles that he's had are not necessarily reflected of the queer community as a whole, and that's why the queer community does not like him once they put any research into him.
Yeah. Yikes.
And as long as those people already are aware of like queer politics, you know?
Yeah, for sure. That
And I
brings
feel like
us into the next point, though.
Page 81. So, Jennifer Putman continued, would it be okay if you were just gay? Like, you've had relationships with guys in the past, but you were gay the whole time? It distracts from your message. Some people will latch onto this as a way to say it makes you less human. We're really looking at this through not just a New York lens, but all America. Well, really all of the world. Your sexual orientation will be a weakness through which you can be attacked.
So how do you feel about that?
I got real mad. I also got really mad at first when April said, I can be gay and straight. And I'm just like, just say fucking bisexual. But then they did say bisexual, like, in the same paragraph.
Right.
But I was just like...
Yeah, it is kind of a weird way to look at that.
Like, you can just say you're bisexual and move on. And then, like, it was very much this, like, not to call Jennifer Putman a boomer, but... very much like a boomer idea of like not understanding what bisexuality is.
Yeah, I just like I was so honestly confused more than I was angry. Well, I was angry later, but like I've just never heard of this. Like I've never heard of someone being like, well, can you just like we're just gonna say you're just this one so that people can accept it. Like I'm not bisexual, so that's definitely not my experience, but like
the example I can give is Kristen Stewart.
Yeah, people like just want her to be gay.
Yeah, they cannot accept the fact that she's bisexual. Which also, sexuality is fluid. So I'm not Kristen Stewart, can't say her sexuality, but she has said in the past that she is bisexual. So like
she's bisexual. That's what that means.
Yeah, and also when you're queer, you do in fact say things like, "Oh, I'm so gay," when like you're not just experiencing same-sex attraction.
Right.
So,
yeah. It also says a lot about, it is definitely like a boomer point of view. Like, people are going to look at your sexuality and judge you for it, which they obviously do later on in the book. But, like, I just feel like we're actually getting to a point where at least sexual orientation isn't looked at like that, which I think is cool. All of any other identifying factor is still, very much so, but, which isn't right, but.
Well, at least, like, in mainstream circles, I definitely know in parts of America that's still very much an issue, and we're not trying to gloss over and say it's not.
Oh, for
Haley
sure,
and
no.
I are, in fact, from the Midwest. We be known. We be knowing. Like.
Yeah, but I just also don't want to minimize that we've come a long way, you know, as far as a whole.
Yeah, and also we have to remember that this book was written 3 years ago, and a lot in the queer and LGBT movement and politics has changed in those years.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, page 166. At the Caddy 95, April May is pretty cute, but she completely ruins it by being so full of herself. At April, maybe not. I mean, definitely, though. What else am I supposed to be full of? It's just me in here. Well, me and an embarrassing amount of Doritos.
I just think this is so good because, like, if it was a dude, no one would fucking care if he was full of himself. Like, but because it's a female and she's being, you know, scrutinized in the public eye, she has to. Of course, she's full of herself if she's confident or.
Yeah. I definitely felt Hank Green skirting around the sexism. Like, it's definitely there, but I can definitely tell that he was, like, uncomfortable, you know? Like, really going for it.
Right.
Where I feel like if this was a female author, they would have really gone for it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that might have been a bigger thing than her being bisexual, which I think is very interesting.
I do too. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I feel like if it was a straight woman writing this, she might have gone for the Peter Petrowicki makes fun of her for being a 23-year-old girl, versus Hank Green was like, he's not just sexist, he's homophobic.
He is pretty progressive in that he's not sexist, but he's definitely still homophobic.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That was, like, yeah, the only thing that was, like... And you have to, like, dig to find that sexist, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was really all I had for Rep Station.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought that it was a very natural way of introducing the fact that Maya was African American.
Yeah, I agree, because he didn't, like, describe her skin color or the texture of her hair like most fucking white authors do.
Yeah, this really felt to me that he is someone who, yes, Hank Green does live in Montana, a very white state that's not Native American, but you can definitely tell that he is at least online surrounded and taking in the feedback of queer people, people of color, very much internalizing. Not internalizing the rhetoric, that sounds bad, but like
right.
but like understanding them and not just being like, I know a gay person.
Yeah.
It's
or
very
like,
much just like, I've spent like the last 15 years in online communities and highlighting and understanding other people who are other than me and understanding otherness and how they experience otherness through the lens of fame and how that affects people. And then the otherness of not just being famous, but you know what y'all know what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's just like, it's learning and understanding people instead of just being like scoffing that like, ugh, I have to include this to be inclusive, or like forcing inclusivity. Like, it was realistic. Like, I don't know.
We've definitely talked on this podcast before about how it does like, not to be the white people, but like how you can tell sometimes when diversity is forced, and not in the way that like the alt-right says that, where it's just like, they're forcing this, no one's actually like this, but more just like, hey guys, look at my diverse cast. Well, this felt very much like, yeah, this is just people being people, dog. Like,
right. Yeah. And it's like, it all seemed very natural, like very
organic
authentic to me.
Organic, authentic, versus Cassandra Clare's entire thing.
Oh God, that's in 2 weeks, boy.
Well, oh God, it is. Oh.
Well, we start reading in a week, but what was I gonna say? Fuck. It just kind of it reminds me of like the McElroys, how they like through the Adventure Zone they like have become much more inclusive and like I don't know. I
Yes.
think haven't listened to them forever, but Griffin said they used to be like pretty
Yeah,
not super open-minded, but
they say do not listen to the first 100 episodes of their podcast
yeah,
because
but like because they're humans and they want to be kind humans, they
mm-hmm,
learn from that, and they know how important inclusivity and diversity is to a story,
mm-hmm.
to appeal to people. Even like
Yeah.
it's as simple as that too. Like, I don't know.
I feel like also as well that probably impacted this book as well is that Hank Green already had like fan interactions, because one of the big things that the McElroys talk about is how their fan base is the one that made them realize, oh, we're assholes.
Yeah.
Because apparently in some of the early episodes, Travis would say the R slur, and some fans wrote in and was like, "Hey, that's not okay for you to say," and like listed it out, and he was just like, "Oh, that is fucked up."
Yeah.
Like he had just never thought about it. And luckily, we are in an age now where if you say the R slur, everyone's just like, "Whoo, slow your roll, friend."
Yeah, I hate that. It gives me the
And then
heebie-jeebies.
also in like the Adventure Zone, um, when this is kind of a spoiler, there's like a lesbian couple who die, and then a bunch of fans got mad about that because of the bury your gays trope, and they all yelled at Griffin, and he came and was like, I fucked up. That's on me. Because I'm a cis white guy, a cishet white guy. Sorry, I apologize. And like he fixed it.
Yeah.
And then in Taz Amnesty, Travis was very adamant that the character he was playing was Puerto Rican and that she was bisexual. And then also jumping back to Taz Balance, where for like half of it, Justin was playing Taco as being gay, but he didn't say that. And then some fans were questioning about it, and he was like, you know what, it'd actually mean something more if I actually said, you know what, no, Taco is gay. It's not just subtext. It's
Right.
the text.
Yeah. For
So,
sure.
yeah. So I feel like, yes, having Hank Green already having like that fan interaction of like, if you go through his catalog, you go through anyone creator's catalog, they might just say some problematic stuff, and it'd be like fans be like, hey, that thing you said and did was not cool, and here's why. And it really does change your perspective, you know.
Yeah, that's why I hate. I was gonna talk about it in Does It Hold Up because of like current culture, but like cancel
Well, guess what,
culture.
we can
Okay.
move there right now.
Let's go.
Does it hold up?
So I obviously this holds up because it was came out literally 2 years ago. So I want to talk more about like how it is so poignant about today, and mainly as what I said in Theme Park, where like this cancel culture, this outrage culture, it sells because it appeals to people's fear or their pride or their rage, instead of like their just general human experience. But yeah, cancel culture, I really hate it. I really hate it. I think it's dangerous and bad.
But it also, cancel culture doesn't do anything.
I watched this one video that changed my entire perspective, and it's just like,
I feel like cancel culture, sorry to cut you off, but cancel
okay.
culture has an immediate impact, but no long-term longevity.
Yeah, especially for young creators, like James Charles is gonna come back. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
He's
know.
already back.
Right. And
Like, Philip DeFranco just interviewed him, and like they talked about the scandal and then just moved on. Like, it wasn't this thing, it was a big issue. The fact that Jeffree Star has been canceled like every other week and he's still what he is.
Right. It just
Like,
I just
what are you
think
fiddling with? What are you fiddling with on the other line? I hear it.
Sorry. I was playing with my headphone.
Sorry.
But I feel like just jumping down I agree that like the long-term effects aren't that bad unless it's like you're talking about like the person who was canceled, their psyche, because their lives have been threatened, like, but just like this immediate cancellation after someone has done one wrong thing, it just doesn't leave them room to grow. It doesn't leave them room to learn from that. And like, what else is the human experience than learning from your mistakes? Like, what are they supposed to do? Like, where that person should just not exist anymore because they did this one wrong thing. Like, they still have to live after this. Like, what do you want them to do? I just don't see. Not only does it not last because people fucking forget because the internet has the memory of a goldfish, but it just serves no purpose, I don't think.
Yeah, and I also think there is an issue of people jumping on the bandwagon of cancel culture without doing research themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
I think that happened super hard with James.
I feel like another example we could do is I'm not. Haley and I are fans of this person that I'm going to say, and we watch. I don't know who you're gonna guess who I'm saying, but a lot of the things he's gotten canceled for were not things he did. And
Who are you talking about?
Of course, I'm talking about Shane Dawson.
Oh, okay.
Like, the fact that the cat fucking thing, that wasn't a thing that he got canceled for. The pedophile thing, that wasn't an actual thing.
Right.
Like, okay, those two things. The pedophile thing came first, where someone took quotes from his podcast out of context, like, just, like, sound clips, and edited them together and posted this video saying that he was a pedophile. And it was like, does this, and what really the whole audio was about how, like, creepy it was of Farrah Abraham sexualizing her daughter. Like, he was talking about that. That was the, yeah. But he made a joke about, like, sexy babies, and, right. Like, people took that and like edited it together and said that he was a pedophile. And, like, everyone who I had already listened to that podcast episode, because that was one of his first episodes, was just like, what the fuck? But no one would actually go out and listen to the actual full audio. They just jumped with it and ran.
Right.
The same thing with the cat fucking audio. That one did make me uncomfortable listening to the original episode, but then, like, in it, he was just like, no, that was just a fucking joke in the podcast. And it was like, and everyone was like, he was even in the podcast was like, that was a bad joke. Should have made that joke.
Right.
But then once again, no one did their actual research and went back into it. There are other problematic things that Shane Dawson has done, and I'm not saying he hasn't. And those are, like, good conversations to have, but, like, stuff where with cancel culture, you need to make your own research, do your own research, make your own judgments, not just follow what's trending on Twitter.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's productive. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, I read a bunch of quotes where people don't care about productive conversations.
Yeah.
They don't give a fuck. So I think that is a deeper problem that we need to address.
And next week we'll talk about cancel culture again with John Green, because he got canceled in 2012. Before canceling was a thing.
And I don't know why, so I'm not going to look into it, and you're going to tell me about it next week.
Yeah. So, read me your quote.
Oh. Page 64? Mm-hmm. I had the thought before. When something is impossible to explain, you post the gif of the guy with the hair saying aliens. Mm-hmm. It's what you do.
Oh, Ancient Aliens. You xenophobic show, you.
I don't know why that's the one... Like, the whole fucking book was, like, pop culture references and bullshit like that, but that was the one I picked.
Yeah. Okay. Want to move to Night of the Living Author?
Yeah, we're running over on time pretty bad, but, you know...
Yeah, we just had things to say.
It's important to say these things.
Yeah. I've spent a good amount of time on discussion, so that, like, was one of our goals.
Yeah, I agree.
Night of the Living Author, me, baby.
Okay. I only had 2 things, but I know I want to talk about what you want to talk about, so that's kind of why I skimped here. Page 190. You'd think if space aliens built me from scratch to help them conquer a planet, I would be coordinated enough not to close my boob in a door. And yet, I'm gonna say it, I don't think and my breasts are large, I don't think I could possibly close them in a door in any situation.
I feel like if you're, like, squeezing through a door.
But shut the boob itself, not, like, with your body as well?
I don't know, like, sit up straight, Hales. Boobs out. It comes to a point.
I just don't think that I could shut a door. I'm just not getting the physics of it.
Or like maybe if you're standing like in the door, like you have the doorway open, ajar, and you're standing in it, and you close it. You know what I'm saying?
With your boob between the frame and the door?
Yeah, you're like leaning against the frame, like you're leaning against it.
Okay, alright.
Okay.
It just sounded like something a dude would say who has never had boobs. That's all I'm saying. There are more female problems that you could have, used here, but he didn't. And I don't want to. I just hate the description of Miranda and pretty much their whole little scene.
Yeah.
And I put the page number here, but I don't want to go to it. I don't want to look it up.
Okay.
I don't want to do it. But I didn't like that, Hank. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. So what I want to talk about, we kind of talked about throughout all of this, about how the importance of the Green brothers, the Vlog brothers, definitely shaped this book, because I feel like when everyone found out this was going to be about social media, you were like, oh, that'll be interesting, and it very much is.
Yeah.
But this is what I want to talk about. The Easter eggs in the book, apparently.
Oh, boy. For the
Do
next
you have your book in front of you? No, for this book.
Oh, yeah, I have my book.
Okay, the end papers, so like the blank pages of the book, contain a hidden message that was alluded to but not explained to in a video on the Vlogbrothers channel.
Oh.
The Easter egg is that the tops of the more lightly colored buildings spell out, knowing something is a bad idea does not always decrease the odds that you will do it.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then, along with this, one of the dark-colored buildings features the logo of Nerdfighteria, which is a group of people who follow and support John and Hank Green on the Vlogbrothers channel. Also, another dark-colored building features the letters of DFTBA, a popular initialization used by Nerdfighteria, which stands for Don't Forget to Be Awesome. The hex code 25D067 also appears on one of the buildings near the center of the image. The logo for Complexly, Green's video production company, appears on the side of the building, nearing the second N and knowing. Finally, the word Tekest, a reference to the artist who designed the cover art, can be found in the upper right. On the front cover of the book, the robot, or Carl, located above the T in thing, contains a message written in small script. How far will we go? A second message is located on the robot, or Carl, located under the first E in green. How long will we last?
I did not see that.
On the front cover, the eyes of one robot, Carl, above N and below G are open. And then the paramedics who appear later in the novel are named Jessica Mitty, the same names as those Hank thanks in the acknowledgement section. Thanks to Jessica Mitty for DMing with me about ambulances and first responder protocols. So let me go to the book.
This must have been the hardback cover, because I didn't get any of that, except for the end papers.
Let me pull up my ebook. Oh yeah, because there's the cover that there's an original cover that has a bunch of them, and not just a single Carl.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
I have the paperback, so I just got one Carl.
Yeah. I think the original art had mini Carls. Yeah, so I'm looking now at the original art. Boop, boop.
It also says a novel where mine says sparkling with mystery, humor, and the uncanny by the San Francisco Chronicle.
So apparently, where's the first one? On the front cover, the Carl located above the T and thing. Oh, I see it. And the E in green. Oh, yeah, I definitely see that. And then that Carl's eyes are, in fact, open. Yeah, so. Okay. Okay, rate that book.
Yeah, I gave it 9 out of 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. And 5 stars.
Yeah, I would say about the same.
Yeah, I just felt like I could actually relate to these people. Like, they just seemed so real. And I felt like it covered a lot of poignant topics in a way that felt authentic and possibly even contrary to the rhetoric we often see online, to even suggest that the, quote, good side could employ some of the tactics as the, quote, bad side seems almost taboo to me, but something we actually need to really start considering, in my opinion. Maybe some of the things we do and say on, let's just say, at the left side of politics maybe how we say it isn't always the best way to say it. But that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. How believable was the magic?
I said all but the grape jelly, TBH.
Yeah, because this was more... Because... Oh, I didn't mention this. Oh, fuck. I was going to mention this. Hold on. We'll come right back to this.
Okay.
Because I was like, oh, this is like a sci-fi book, but Hank Green considers it to be a speculative fiction.
Okay. I like that.
So, and then... Yeah, would we recommend this book to a middle school self? Maybe not.
Maybe like 8th grade.
Maybe like age 14, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that every millennial should read this. Every actual millennial should read this.
Yeah. Okay, so
all right.
I was going to read this. This is the Wikipedia, the publication history. So, Hank started working on this book in 2012.
Oh, wow.
He originally planned it to be a graphic novel, but later decided to turn it into a regular book. He wrote about 40,000 words of the novel during NaNoWriMo in 2015, and while writing, he drew inspiration from Dune and Michael Connelly's series starting the character Harry Bosch. Green describes the book as a work of speculative fiction, and Green revealed the working title of the novel was April, May, in New York, Carl. But,
nice.
Yeah. Okay, so come back next week.
We definitely accidentally went way the fuck over on time.
We're trying a new thing of being shorter, but like we just had a lot of things to say this time, guys.
Yeah, it was just a lot. So
good books mean we have good things to say.
Yeah, I'm gonna go edit my vlog, so watch that, please. It's gonna be really fun.
Yeah. Next week we are reading Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. Probably will be shorter because it is less than 300 pages long.
Nice.
Could barely be a novel. Our intro and outro music is Distant Thunder, Sunday Morning by Springtime, off the album This Is the End. You know all our socials. Go follow us. Go find us. We're doing a revamp of stuff with the season 2 premiere. Sorry we didn't post Breaking Dawn stuff the last 2 weeks. Stuff happened.
Honestly, I kind of liked it because I couldn't be sad for our Breaking Dawn episode or our Midnight Sun episode. But then we just didn't do it, so I don't have to actually go through that.
Maybe someday.
Maybe.
Okay. Well, I gotta go take a shower.
Ooh, me too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.